Fourth down.
And they are fans of the podcast. A Time
flies. Yeah.
It does fly, huh?
It does. Yeah. There's new life, new podcast, new things going on now.
Yeah, new things going on. I just watched your movie last night. Psychonautic. Is that right?
Psychonautics.
Psychonautics.
Yeah, yeah.
And so can you tell us what a psychonaut is?
Yeah, a psychonaut is someone who uses psychedelics to explore their own mind and kind of use the internal world as a kind of universe unto itself that is to be explored. And
like just going hitchhiking inside of yourself.
Yes, wow. Exactly. And usually, because there's like, you know, microdosers with psychedelics that you hear a lot about in like Silicon Valley and stuff. And this is like, take microdoses of LSD to boost your productivity and creativity. And to me, I've never felt like that's what psychedelics were about for me.
Right.
It was about the bigger exploration. So I take like much more like mega doses and really get in there and explore those worlds. And sometimes a little too far, as you saw in the movie.
Yeah, and I don't want to spoil the movie for people.
I mean, I think you can say whatever without spoiling it,
but
and it'll still be
deep. I mean, you went 10,000 leagues under the sea.
I did. I got lost for a while. It took me like a year to feel normal again.
Are you serious?
Yeah, because that's like we had to after I mean, we start off the documentary by saying this. I ended up in a psych ward.
Yes.
But after that, it took a long time. I needed to, basically we were done filming after the psych ward. We're like, well, I'm fucking gonna be crazy for a little while and I can't do psychedelics anymore for the foreseeable future. And so we had to cut together what we had, and I was able to sort of record some voiceover stuff and do some like post-production stuff like that. But yeah, it took me a long time to come back to Earth. It was ultimately one of the best things that ever happened to me, I feel like, because I got a full reset, and now I feel like I'm the best version of myself that I've ever been, and I have a new tour called Stand Up Science. I have 2 scientists and a different comedian on every show, and every city's a different show, and that's going really well. I have my science podcast, Here We Are, is going really well, and I quit drinking, I quit smoking, and
I heard those things. That was really cool to hear.
Yeah.
You should drink a good bit.
Yes.
I'm not trying to call you out or anything.
Oh, no.
Okay, good.
I'm very comfortable saying I used to get hammered all the time. I'm an all or nothing kind of guy.
I could see that.
Yeah, and I'm a binger.
I remember one time I was walking. It was at some Comedy Central thing, because we've kind of been in comedy around in the same world, the same, along the same timeline a little bit.
Oh God, didn't we do the same live at Gotham? I think we did.
We might have done the same live at Gotham. Yeah, and D.L. Hughley was the host.
Yes.
Yes.
Dude,
wow.
that was over 10 years ago. We did that. I remember the lights went out during your set, right?
Yeah, they did, and then
and you had to redo your